A shell explodes somewhere beyond the fog, close enough to shake the ground beneath the trench, far enough that no one can tell where the next one will land. This is a ww1 documentary. The sound rolls away slowly, breaking into fragments as it echoes across the empty land. For a moment, everything freezes. Not because of fear alone, but because instinct demands stillness. Boots sink slightly into the mud as weight shifts. No one speaks. No one needs to. The air is cold, damp, and heavy. It presses against the lungs with every breath. The smell of wet earth mixes with old smoke and rusted metal, a scent that never fully disappears. Even when the guns fall silent, the war lingers in the air. Wind moves across the trench line, slipping through broken planks and sandbags stacked unevenly along the wall. It whistles softly, carrying distant sounds that blur together until they feel unreal. Somewhere far away, another gun fires. The sound arrives late, dull and stretched thin by distance. Water drips steadily from the trench wall. Each drop falls into the mud below with a quiet, hollow sound. Drip, pause, drip again. Time seems to follow the same rhythm, slow and repetitive, refusing to move forward. A soldier adjusts his position. Mud resists, pulling at his boots before letting go. Fabric rustles as a coat is pulled tighter. Fingers brush against cold metal, then curl away. Breath fogs briefly in the air and vanishes. Above the trench, barbed wire hums as the wind passes through it. The sound is thin, almost fragile, yet it stretches endlessly across no man's land. Fog hangs low, swallowing the horizon. Nothing moves out there. That makes it worse. Another distant rumble passes through the ground. It is felt more than heard. The earth vibrates softly, then settles back into uneasy stillness. No one reacts. These sounds no longer signal danger or safety. They are simply part of existence. This ww1 documentary is not about shouting orders or charging forward. It is about waiting. Waiting in mud. Waiting in cold. Waiting in silence that feels heavier than noise. Somewhere behind the trench, boots move slowly through shallow water. The sound is quiet, careful, measured. Equipment rattles softly, then stops. A lantern flickers briefly, casting warm light against the cold earth before dimming again. Shadows stretch and collapse. Time loses its shape here. Minutes feel long. Hours feel endless. The body stays alert even when the mind drifts. Every small sound feels important. Every pause feels suspicious. Far across the field, a single machine gun fires a short burst, sharp, sudden. Then, nothing. The echo lingers longer than the sound itself. No return fire follows. The silence that comes after is worse than the noise. A soldier shifts his shoulders, easing the weight of his pack. The straps creak quietly. Somewhere nearby, someone coughs once, quickly, then goes silent again. The sound feels too loud. Everyone listens. Nothing happens. The trench breathes. Water seeps in from the sides, slowly filling shallow grooves along the floor. Boots remain half submerged, socks never fully dry. The cold creeps upward, settling into bones and refusing to leave. Even standing still feels exhausting. Another artillery blast sounds in the distance. This one is farther away. It arrives as a low, rolling thunder that fades into the background. The sky remains gray. The fog does not lift. This is a ww1 documentary built from moments like these. Long stretches of waiting broken by sudden violence. The mind learns to live in between. Wind picks up slightly, pushing smoke across the land in slow, uneven waves. The smell sharpens for a moment, then dulls again. Somewhere out there, beyond the fog, another trench mirrors this one. Another group waits in the same silence. Barbed wire creaks softly as it sways. The sound repeats, steady and mechanical. It blends with the drip of water, the hum of wind, the distant thunder of guns. Together they form a rhythm that never stops. A helmet rests against the trench wall, its surface scratched and dull. Mud clings to the rim. A rifle leans nearby, wood darkened by moisture, metal cold to the touch. Everything here feels worn, tired, and heavy. The ground trembles faintly again. A shell lands far away. The sound travels slowly, bending around the fog and settling into the trench like a distant memory. No one looks up. Eyes remain fixed forward, on nothing in particular. The silence stretches. Breathing becomes the loudest sound. Inhale. Exhale. Slow. Controlled. Any faster feels dangerous. Any louder feels wrong. This ww1 documentary exists in these quiet moments. The war is not always noise and motion. Often, it is stillness, so intense it feels alive. Mud shifts again as someone moves a foot. The sound is soft but noticeable. A hand tightens briefly, then relaxes. The trench holds. Somewhere in the distance, a whistle blows. It is faint, almost lost to the wind. No movement follows. It might belong to another sector entirely. It might mean nothing, or it might mean everything. No one knows. The waiting continues. Rain begins lightly, almost unnoticed at first. Small droplets darken the earth, then merge into thin streams that run along the trench floor. The smell deepens. The cold sharpens. A soldier wipes water from his face with the back of his hand. The motion is slow, deliberate. Everything here is done carefully. Carelessly is dangerous. Another pause. Long, unbroken. Then, far away, artillery resumes. Slow, heavy. One blast. Then another. Each impact sends a faint vibration through the ground. The rhythm is uneven, impossible to predict. This is a ww1 documentary told through atmosphere, through sound, through the space between explosions, through the feeling that something could happen at any moment, or not at all. The trench remains still. The fog thickens. The night stretches on, and somewhere beyond the haze, the war waits. The next shell does not arrive right away. Instead, the silence stretches, thin and uncomfortable, as if the land itself is listening. The trench remains frozen in place, every shape unmoving, every sound reduced to the smallest possible scale. This is a ww1 documentary. Wind slides slowly along the trench wall, lifting the edge of a torn sandbag before letting it fall back into place. The movement is gentle, almost calm, and that calm feels wrong. Calm never lasts long here. Calm is only the space between things breaking. Somewhere nearby, a boot shifts again. Mud pulls, then releases with a quiet sound. Water ripples briefly, then settles. A breath is taken a little too quickly, then slowed again on purpose. No one looks at anyone else. Everyone understands. The fog thickens as night deepens. Shapes lose definition. Distance becomes impossible to judge. The world shrinks to the length of the trench and the few steps in front of it. Everything beyond that feels imagined, like a memory rather than a place. Another distant explosion rolls across the land, deeper this time. The sound takes longer to arrive, dragging itself through the air. The ground answers with a faint vibration. It passes. Nothing follows. The waiting resumes. This ww1 documentary is built from this waiting. Hours of it. Days of it. Waiting that settles into muscles and thoughts until it becomes routine. The body stays ready even when the mind drifts. Sleep comes in fragments, light and easily broken. A rat moves somewhere along the trench wall, unseen but heard. A soft scratch. A brief scurry. Then silence again. No one reacts. Rats are everywhere. They know this place as well as the soldiers do. Water continues to drip. The sound repeats endlessly, steady and dull. Drip, drip, drip. It marks time better than any watch. When the drip stops, that is when people notice. A lantern flickers again farther down the trench, briefly painting the walls in warm yellow before dimming. The light reveals faces for a moment, tired, tense, streaked with mud, then disappears, leaving only outlines and shadows. A rifle is adjusted quietly. Wood creaks softly. Metal clicks once, then goes still. Every sound feels amplified in the darkness. Every movement is calculated. Above the trench, the barbed wire hum changes pitch as the wind shifts. The sound stretches across the empty space between the lines, thin and endless. It feels like the only thing connecting both sides of the battlefield. This is a ww1 documentary that lives in sound more than sight. The low rumble of distant guns, the whisper of wind, the soft movements of men trying not to be noticed, the silence that presses down harder than noise ever could. Another machine gun burst cracks somewhere far off, short, sharp, then gone. No response. The echo drifts away slowly, leaving the air heavier than before. Someone clears their throat quietly, then stops. The sound feels too loud. Everyone listens again. Nothing happens. Time passes without shape. Minutes blur together. The mind drifts, then snaps back at every unfamiliar sound. Even imagination becomes dangerous. It is safer to focus on what can be heard, what can be felt. Cold seeps deeper into clothing, into skin, into bone. The damp never leaves. Fingers ache. Toes grow numb. Still, no one moves more than necessary. Movement draws attention. Attention invites danger. Another distant artillery blast rolls through the fog. This one is followed by another, then another, slow and methodical. The rhythm is uneven, impossible to predict. The earth responds each time with a quiet shudder. This is a ww1 documentary about endurance, about holding position not because it makes sense, but because there is nowhere else to go. Forward is deadly. Backward is forbidden. So the trench becomes the world. Water sloshes softly as someone steps aside to let another pass. The sound fades quickly. A hand brushes against the trench wall, fingers pressing into wet earth for balance. The smell deepens as rain returns, light but persistent. It darkens the mud, thickens the air. Smoke mixes with dampness, creating a sharp, metallic scent that settles in the throat. Another pause. Long, unbroken. A distant whistle sounds again, faint and unclear. It might belong to another unit. It might mean nothing. Or it might be a warning. No one reacts yet. Reacting too early can be as dangerous as reacting too late. This ww1 documentary does not rush. War is not constant action. Most of it is this: listening, waiting, and trying not to think too far ahead. A helmet slips slightly and is caught before it falls. The movement is slow, controlled. The soldier holds it close, as if even metal needs reassurance. The wind changes direction, carrying the sound of guns from somewhere else along the line. The noise is distant, blurred, almost gentle. It feels wrong for something meant to kill. Another vibration passes through the ground, smaller this time, closer. The air tightens, shoulders tense, hands grip rifles more firmly. Then nothing. The silence stretches again, longer now. It presses against ears, against thoughts. It becomes difficult to tell whether the next sound will be an explosion or just the wind. This is a ww1 documentary made of moments that stretch and bend, Moments that feel endless while they are happening, then disappear without warning. Mud continues to pull at boots. Water continues to drip. The trench continues to exist, unchanged, unmoved by time or fear. Somewhere out there, beyond the fog, another trench mirrors this one. Another group waits in the same silence, listening to the same distant guns, breathing the same cold air. The war holds them both in place. The night deepens, the fog thickens, sounds grow softer, farther apart. The world narrows further until only the trench remains. A final distant rumble echoes across the land, slow and heavy. It fades, leaving behind only wind and dripping water. The waiting continues. This is a ww1 documentary, and the silence does not end.